Well, hi everyone. I'm so glad you all are here. As I said, my name is JC Phelps, and my blog is JC Phelps. I've blogged on there for almost 7 years, though I have blogged for almost 13 years, just not always about food. I write primarily about the state of Kentucky and the art of Southern cooking. And so today I'm going to show you one of my most favorite recipes, which is my Southern tomato pie. And I would be interested to see if you all have ever had a tomato pie. So if you have or you haven't, I would love to hear. This is kind of a niche Southern food, I would say. It's more of a deep South thing. A lot of Kentuckians aren't actually aware of tomato pie, but some people like me swear by it. So I'm excited to show you my variation of recipe. I had many variations over time, but decided that there were a few things I wanted to change, so I made it my own. And that's what I'm going to share with y'all. But I'll tell you just a little bit more about me. I am currently coming to you from my kitchen in Louisville, Kentucky. Renee says it's your first time having it. Well, I hope you love it. It is a crowd favorite. So if you like pimento cheese and you like tomatoes, you're going to love this. So I'm here in my kitchen in Louisville, where I split around half my time, more or less. Also, I live in my hometown, which is Russell County, Kentucky. It's a small rural county near the Tennessee border. I grew up on the family farm that we've had for 222 years. Same family, same land, and we're a Kentucky State Historic Spot, which we're very proud of. So that's where I learned to cook. I learned to cook from my granny and my aunties, and learned to cook in a cast iron skillet on recipes that were written on the backs of napkins and on little index cards and things of that nature. So I certainly am, a Southern food, but I do a little bit of everything on the blog. So before we get to cooking, I did want to talk a little bit about Gilda's Club, and I'm actually not going to talk about it. I'm going to have Lori talk about it. This is the organization that we are raising money for tonight. And my friend Lori, who is here, is an employee of Gilda's Club and has a special connection to it. So I'm going to pop out of the screen and let her take over.
He hardly ever shares the screen, y'all. This is a big deal. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to share a little bit more about Gilda's Club Kentuckiana with the Traditions Kitchen family. Gilda's Club was founded in 1989 by Gene Wilder, who some of you guys may recognize, Willy Wonka, when his wife, Gilda Radner, who was SNL queen and comedic gem all around, passed away from her second bout with ovarian cancer. And he knew that when she did her best in treatment was when she was in a community of people who understood what she was going through. And that's what Gilda's Club is. It is a community of people that understand one another. We provide psychosocial support, so pretty much everything but the medicine. We have social groups, we have education like this, cooking classes. And right now, because of COVID, everything is virtual. So literally what we're doing right now is what we are doing with our members all across Kentuckiana to give them the support that they need. We also do support groups, which are really vital, especially in a time of isolation like pandemic, to be together, to talk together, and just to feel seen amidst something that has kept you locked in. And fear is a huge thing right now for cancer families. And so we're trying to provide them with as much love and care as possible. A lot of our members are online tonight. So hi, everybody, if you're with us, thanks for joining. Just know that you guys are supporting people who very much need to have a totally free place to go to get the love and support that they need during something as scary as cancer. And I can tell you how amazing Gilda's Club is because I was a member. I am a cancer survivor, and Gilda's Club is where my family and I went to get the support that we needed during the scariest time of our lives. And when I got well, I became a volunteer and now a staff member, and can't imagine a better place to call my professional home than my extended family. So thank y'all so much, and let's cook, yeah?
you. Isn't she good, y'all? And correct me if I'm wrong, I think Gilda's Club Kentuckiana is the largest chapter of Gilda's Club, correct?
Correct.
Is that in the country or the world?
Well, right now it's just a United States entity, but we're working on some Canadian locations, so soon we'll be able to say the world.
So we're the biggest in America here. Move over Texas. Kentucky is the biggest and the best. So we will come say hi in a true country fashion.
With you.
Yes, this is my friend Tanya. She's also here cooking with me, or going to eat with me, I guess.
I'm here to
eat. So I'm so glad you're here.
Me
Thanks
too.
for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And in true country fashion, when I made this recipe, I made it to make 2 pies. One, you could certainly probably eat 2 pies yourself. I mean, they are really good. But also 2, they're made to share. So maybe you give it to your neighbors. Maybe you have 2 friends that are sitting in your kitchen right here. That's the true Southern way to cook by my standards. So this is a shareable recipe, but I won't judge you if you keep them. So again, this is what we're working towards, and we will start with the pie crust. So now y'all don't judge me. If you saw the recipe, you will note that I am not making a homemade pie crust. And here's why. So Mira just said, let's see, they are sending out an email with the Zoom link. There's some connectivity issues, but for the time being, we will just have at it if that's good with y'all. So I don't make homemade pie crusts, and this is why. My background is in econ and finance, also have an MBA. One of the #1 rules of economics is if the benefit outweighs the cost, you make the decision. If the cost outweighs the benefit, you don't make the decision. And for me, the hassle of making a homemade pie crust is not worth the difference in quality. Buy a really good store-bought one, and you're just fine, y'all. Don't fool with it. So I have a pre-made pie crust here, and you will see in the recipe I state that I use a already baked. Sometimes those can be a little hard to find. And so if that is the case for you, if you have one that is frozen and that's not already baked, you do want to go ahead and put that in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Back home, I always use the Wix brand, and I can find it at the little local fruit market. Today at Kroger, or this weekend rather, I didn't see ones that were perfect. So I actually just went ahead and baked this for 12 to 13 minutes at 350. Took the fork to the bottom, let some air get into it. And because of that, it's ready to go. This pie is not going to be cooked that long. So if your pie shell, if you put it in there just for 15 minutes with it fully frozen, you're going to have a unbaked pie crust, and no one wants that. So if you do need to do that, go ahead and turn it to 350, and I'm going to go ahead and turn my oven to that as well, just so I will already have it. But then the most important part of a tomato pie, of course, are the tomatoes, and I'm going to lower my screen here. My kitchen is not really something like this, so you all will just have to excuse me. So here I have a smaller tomato and a really big tomato. This one tomato might be enough for a pie. In the recipe, I think I call for 2 to 3 medium-sized tomatoes. This is a honker. This is a Russell County, Kentucky grown tomato, y'all, from my hometown. And let me tell you, it is good. So I'm definitely going to use this one first, but just in case I need another one, I do have a little one here on the side. So one of the tricks, I would say I do 3 things with my tomato pie that make it, take it to the next level maybe. And one is how you deal with tomatoes. Tomatoes are, the word I use, pithy. They can get really runny and icky, and that's not what you want in a pie. It's going to get mushy. So first, you're going to need salt to bring that moisture content out of it. After you have salted the tomato, something that I have added to this recipe, and don't judge, it's a little different, is sugar. Some people, they hear me say that and they think, I don't want a sweet pie or I don't want a sweet sauce. If you are cooking with a tomato, if you are doing anything with the tomato, minus putting it on a sandwich, a little sprinkle of sugar takes out all the bitterness, but it does not make it sweet. So I totally recommend using a little sugar. So before I get to slicing this, I will talk about briefly the ingredients, and then we'll get started because it really is really quick to make, y'all. So this recipe again is for two. So 2 pre-baked pie crusts. I do call for 3 to 4 medium tomatoes. I usually find if you have like a Roma or a tomato that's a little bit bigger than that, 2 is plenty. A cup of mayonnaise. And when we mix that, I'll show you, I really want you to add it in slowly. And that's because you can always add more mayonnaise, but you can't take it out after you put it in your mixture. Sharp cheddar, Monterey Jack, and Parmesan. Those are the 3 cheeses that I use in my pimento cheese. A jar of diced pimentas, a Vidalia onion grated. In true Southern fashion, when I use onion, I use sweet onion. And I know that Tradition Kitchens is based in Georgia, so I know y'all probably love Vidalias too. Let's see, you're gonna need Grey Poupon mustard. That's one of my secret ingredients. And then I'm a big fan of minced onion. You don't have to add that along with the onion, but I like the texture, I also like the flavor. Black pepper, kosher salt, garlic powder, onion powder, if you want to add those, I usually do. Sugar, just to sprinkle on the tomatoes, and also basil for garnish. And I'm taking another little shortcut here. Fresh basil is obviously the best, but sometimes you forget to grab it at the grocery or something like me. So I always keep this around. If you have a Kroger in your area, the Private Selection brand, Mediterranean basil is so fabulous. This jar is maybe $4. It's really rich, it's really sweet, and this will last you a long time. And so all of these ingredients come together again to make this gorgeous tomato pie. So if you're ready with your pie shell, if it's in the oven, this will be a little hard. We'll start with the mustard with that, but I'm actually going to start with the tomato. So when I cut tomatoes, we all have our own way. I use a serrated knife. I don't like to get it all mushy. And so I'm just going to briefly cut the top off and the bottom, so we don't have that. And then I'm going to get some good slices down the middle. And I'm going to show you all this tomato, and you will know why I said this is a homegrown, best tomato you can get. It's meaty and so delicious. I am just cutting maybe, I would say maybe 1/3 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch thick. 1/2 of an inch would be max, but you can see here, this is the kind of tomato I'm working with. It's so juicy, so flavorful, but again, it's mostly meat. So I'm just going to slice around. This tomato variety has a really, not verbose, but a large core. So usually when I'm in the middle, I just go around it like this and cut, kind of awkward slices, but that's just fine. And so what I do when I have my tomatoes cut, this is definitely enough for me for one pie, is I want to have some paper towels down on a cutting board, and I lay my tomato slices flat on the paper towel, just like this. And these are juicy, juicy. So we definitely need the salt. So have my tomatoes just out like this, nice and easy. And then I'm going to go in with kosher salt. And I'm going to say, be liberal here, don't be conservative. Of course, it also kind of depends on how juicy your tomatoes are. That said, go in with the salt, and when you pat them dry, you'll wipe some of this off. So it definitely won't make your pie too salty. So going in there, perfect. So there's the kosher salt. And then again, to cut out the bitterness of that tomato, I'm gonna add sugar. I definitely use less sugar than salt, but I do just, give a eyeball sprinkle to each tomato slice. You'll find that a lot of my recipes on the blog and especially if you cook with me in real life. Some people in this kitchen can attest to that. I'm a pinch, a sprinkle, a dash of that. And I think that that's how a true Southern cook does. We just kind of oddball things. So I'm going to set this tomato over here that I don't need right now. And this is plenty. So I'm just going to leave those there, kind of let them do their thing and get their juices out. For a minute, I do, put a top paper towel on top to get some of the moisture out. You can already see, so moist. So while we have that, we will work on our filling, or excuse me, our topping, which is the hardest part of this recipe, but you all will find it is really, really quite simple. And so I use 3 cheeses here. One is Parmesan, and that's why I don't add any kosher salt into my pimento cheese. If you are a really big salt lover, you certainly could, but Parmesan is a really high salt content, not necessary. So we're going to use our Parmesan, our Monterey Jack, our sharp cheddar, and those are the 3 cheeses that are going to go in the tomato pie. I have a mix here that has Monterey Jack, which is just fine, but usually I do just get a full bag of Monterey. So with these cheeses, you again are going to be making a double batch. So you'll find that my bags here are about half, and that's because I've already made a pie for you all to see. But I usually use 8 ounces of each cheese. Parmesan often comes in a 6-ounce bag at the store. If that's the case, y'all don't worry about it. Just use 6 ounces. And so I'm adding the 3 cheeses for the pimento cheese. Oh, that's my oven. We're ready at 350. So in here in the bowl, I have a heck of a lot of cheese, y'all. And so the 3 cheeses are in here. This is roughly 2 cups, 2.5 cups or so. I make my pimento cheese personally in my KitchenAid mixer. If you want to mix it by hand or a hand mixer, you certainly can. I find this is easiest, however. So if you are going to use a double batch, I use anywhere, depending on how much you like them, 4 to 8 ounces of diced pimentos. I drop in the juice and everything, so I have half a jar here because I have already made one pie. I'm just going to go ahead and drop my pimentos in there, and then the mayonnaise. One of the most important parts of pimento cheese, maybe other than the cheese. If you are a Southerner, as many of us are here on this call, you might be a Dukes fan like me. Used to be a Hellman's fan, I'm ashamed to admit it. But now it's Dukes or bust, y'all. And Lori's giggling at me. I'll tell you, I went to the Kroger the other day, and my neighborhood Kroger, Goss Kroger, Tanya, and they didn't have a darn jar of Duke's mayonnaise.
What?
Can you use a food processor? You definitely can use a food processor. It is mostly the texture you want of your pimento cheese. I like mine, really chunky and to see the ingredients, but some store-bought pimentos you'll notice are, really combined and in unison. So that's what you'll get if you use something like that. But I use the mixing bowl to keep it nice and thick. But if that's what you have, by all means. But yes, so my Kroger did not have Dukes. I nearly had a meltdown in the aisle, y'all. And when I went to Poplar Level Kroger, a really small Kroger, I bought 3 jars because I ain't going without my mayonnaise. So the recipe, again, calls for 1 cup of mayonnaise. But listen here, y'all. The recipe that I've made has the proportions of cheese that you will find in a single bag of traditionally grated cheese at the grocery store. If you put too much mayonnaise in there and you've used all your cheese, it's not really salvageable. Still use it, don't waste. You'll just have a really mayonnaise-y tomato pie, which if that's what you like, power to you. But I like a solid consistency. So I probably start with 2/3 of a cup to 3/4 of a cup of mayonnaise. You can see it in there, it's kind of flopping around. You can always, always add more. So pimento cheese, you need mayonnaise, pimentas, and cheese. So we got the important parts. When I make traditional pimento cheese, if you see that blog post, which is one of my most popular of all time, I call it better than Nemo's. And that's because it's better than Nemo's, I can promise you. The one ingredient you won't find in this that I put in that is cream cheese. I find that the tomato pie does not need that. If you love cream cheese, have at it, but certainly not needed. So with those ingredients, it's time to add the extras. As I mentioned, I love minced onion. I love the texture of it, and I love the flavor. So you can see I'm just kind of dashing here, y'all. I have my little ramekins. This is truly to taste. If you're like me and you're crazy for it, use half a little tube of it. That's just fine. I am going to add, in addition to the recipe, and put some garlic and onion powder. This is a very onion-heavy recipe, so dial it down if you want to. So I've added those. And then, good quality black pepper. I cannot stress this enough. I love Ina Garten. She is my non-Southern cook inspiration, and she is very particular in her ingredients. Now, being a Kentucky cook, I am not that particular. With that said, there are a few things that I cannot sacrifice on. One is black pepper. I buy mine usually from Whole Foods, but some black pepper is just like black dust, and it has zero flavor, y'all. So please, please get good flavor black pepper, and good quality rather. And I use quite a bit. I like the pepper in the pimento cheese. So this, believe it or not, minus one ingredient is everything. So I've seen there are a few people coming in here. I'll kind of reiterate what we've done, because as I said, this is really a simple recipe, y'all. It doesn't take that long. Our oven is at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're churning out one of these beautiful tomato pies. I use pre-baked pie shells, so I have that prepared. I have my tomatoes sliced over here with kosher salt to get out the moisture and a little bit of sugar. Say again? Oh, sorry. I think a mic is on, which is just fine. Have a little bit of sugar on them to cut the bitterness, and now I'm making the topping. Monterey Jack cheese, Parmesan cheese, sharp cheddar, mayonnaise, minced onion, pimentas, black pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. The last ingredient, which I have here, I did this for you, Angela, watching. You love the bell. I have it here in a little Louisville stoneware Belle of Louisville cup, just for you. This is maybe about 1/4 of a Vidalia onion, really finely chopped. You have a microplane. That's a great thing to use here as well. A grater, anything you want, as fine as you want it. It's delicious. I do use Vidalia, which still has great flavor, but is a little bit sweeter, so it's not as harsh. So this is all the ingredients for the topping. I'm gonna take it over here to my mixer. I'm gonna mix it, bring it back and show y'all, kind of show you the consistency that I like, and then we'll move forward. So I hope you can hear me. I usually mix on about medium speed. I see a comment coming in here. Did I put in the mustard? Not yet. You'll see what I do with the mustard, and that's one of the keys. So stay tuned. So I'm going to mix this up. Didn't have it on my stand. That would have been good. My word, y'all. I say this every time I make a video, and I say this on the blog all the time. I could sit here and I could eat this entire bowl. It is so simple. So here is the texture. Let me grab a spoon. This is why I use a mixer instead of a food processor or a blender. I like my pimento cheese to be really thick. So it's probably not great focus. We're on my MacBook here, but you can see all the shards of cheese. You can see the pimentos. It's evenly coated in mayonnaise, but it's not too mayonnaisey. This is what I look for. Here's the entire bowl. It's just a really, really thick consistency. You can see there. You'll also know if you watch my YouTube channel that you have to taste it and make sure it's good, y'all. So good.
Not fair.
It personally doesn't need anything. It's very oniony, which is what I love. But do always taste. If it needs some kosher salt, if the Parmesan isn't enough salt for you, by all means, please put salt in it. You want more pepper, have at it. But these are the basic ingredients. So the things I do differently to my tomato pie is I add a little sugar to my tomatoes, which is always nice. Instead of using just a little bit of a cheese and a mayonnaise mixture, I make traditional pimento cheese, which is not the standard. Last but not least, when I'm readying my pie shell, I baste it liberally with Grey Poupon Dijon mustard. This is the probably most unique step here. If you follow my cooking, you'll know that I am Grey Poupon's #1 fan. I'm using my two arsenals here, Duke's mayonnaise and Grey Poupon mustard, y'all. It's all you need to be a Southern cook. And butter, of course, butter. And Grey Poupon is so flavorful. I would be lying if I said I couldn't just take a spoon like this and put it in my mouth. But I won't do that because you all didn't pay for a horror movie. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, and this is purely to taste, y'all. I'm gonna take a very liberal spoon because I love it. I'm gonna plop that right down in the pie shell. Most people would use less than this. I would maybe, if you were starting, go for maybe 1.5 tablespoons. You can take a spoon and go around it. I have this amazing little cheap brush that I use. And what I do, one of the viewers tonight is an artist and a painter. Let me tell you, I have no artistic skills that aren't culinary, but I'm sitting here painting my own Mona Lisa here. And all of this Grey Poupon mustard is gorgeous. I think this should be in the Louvre, at least in the Kentucky Art Museum. But so what I'm doing here is I'm doing an even coat, and I go around the base. I also go all the way around the rim with the Dijon mustard. And again, that's to preference. I have a light right here, so it's pretty bright, but you can kind of see the true yellow color here. It's just one even layer, and that's all you need. So now, I hate to confess that something I brag about so much is this easy. We have all the ingredients that we need to make this pie happen. I have my tomatoes over here, and they are, still quite juicy. And so what I do, and some people cringe at this as well, but this is the telltale of a Southern cook. We use our hands. You could sit those tomatoes out for a couple hours, and that would be the best way maybe to do this. But I think the best way to do it in terms of quickness is to go in and pat them dry with your hands. And you will not mush them, I promise. I have a size 16.5 ring finger, y'all. I am a big human. And if I will not mash these tomatoes, you won't, I promise. Just don't go all Hulk on it. So I'm gonna remove this, and I'm gonna take another paper. And as you can see, a lot of liquid is already coming out of them again. But I find that 2 rounds of this is plenty. By patting out the moisture, it's gonna be a firmer pie. Second, I usually go over each one individually like this, and that gets some of that kosher salt gone, and also gets rid of some of that sugar content. So just discard this. Certainly, you could use, whatever you want to use the blot, but I just use paper towels. So I have pretty dry tomatoes here, and I'm going to construct the pie. The tomatoes go in first on top of the mustard basted pie shell. And I usually just take this around the corner, or the corners rather. Look how, I hope you can tell, these tomatoes are just sinfully gorgeous. So I actually have probably too much tomato here. I go all the way around, and then I usually put one tomato there in the center. This again was a very large, very beefy tomato. If you use Romas, fine, you'll just use more tomato. If you have cherry tomatoes, great with cherry tomatoes. Heirloom tomatoes, also great with that. All it matters is that you have a good quality tomato. I would say I fill the tomatoes, it's a roughly half of the pie shell. You can kind of see there's still quite a bit of room up to the crust. And that's what you want, because the star of this, even though it is a tomato pie, and the tomatoes are delicious, the star of the show is the pimento cheese. So here, again, we have our pimento cheese that I have mixed. I am going to grab my spatula out of the magic sink that y'all can't see. If you don't have one of these rubber spatulas, please get one. This is an all-time favorite kitchen tool. It saves a lot. You can really scrape up a bowl. And this is a good old $1 Betty Crocker variety from the Dollar Tree. And I absolutely love it. So what I'm doing is just plomping a lot of pimento cheese on this. And, you know, ideally, if you're making both pies, you'll want to evenly split it. This is a single pie because, again, I've already made one pie today. So I may have my proportions just slightly off, and I probably will have too much pimento cheese, but fear not, y'all, it will not be wasted by any means. So I'm just gonna finish putting that on. That looks like plenty. I can always go back in. And then whether you're using a spoon or a rubber spatula, whatever it is, you're gonna take that pimento cheese topping, which you can see right here, and you're gonna essentially mash it down evenly. I like to take it up to the crust, and I fully cover the tomatoes until it's nice and even. I usually, you know, go around it kind of like I'm icing a cake. But again, in Southern fashion, I'm icing it with pimento cheese. And I mean, this is what dreams are made of. I don't need traditional cake. I need tomato pie. And I need an endless tub of pimento cheese. Who needs icing? So to me, this looks pert near, as we would say where I'm from, pert near perfect. And this is what I'm looking at. So I'll line it up flat. You can see there, it's a pretty even layer of pimento cheese. Fully covered the tomatoes, and it's ready for the oven. So again, the oven is at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And because the pimento cheese is already made, the pie crust is pre-baked and it's just tomatoes, it really doesn't need to bake for that long. I usually bake it for 15, 20 minutes max. I keep a really close watch of it. When you can see it's starting to be fully, you know, combined and melted, it's done at 350. But then what I do is I broil it on high for 2 to 4 minutes. I have found that the sweet spot is about 210 seconds, 2.5 minutes, and you want to watch it like a hawk. I do broil on high, and you want this gorgeous brown topped cheese, but it's so easy to burn. So please watch when you're broiling it, y'all. And if you are fancier than me, even though I write about food for a living, you can buy things that go around your crust if you don't want to burn it. But I find if you just get down there, watch it real close, you can get it out, and you know, you may have a few brown spots, kind of like this, but those are my favorite, I'm not gonna lie. You don't want it, you know, black, but a little brown is certainly good. So this pie's ready. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the oven, which is preheated and hotter than Hades. I have a box light here, y'all. I am sweating like I have ran a marathon. And that is essentially the tomato pie. And with the tomato pie, let me set my timer here. I let the timer run out. I give it a good broil, and then I take that basil and top it with the basil, ready to serve. And here's the kicker. It smells like heaven. This is the land of milk and honey. If you heard that growing up, if you grew up in church. With that said, don't ruin the surprise. When it comes out of the oven, drop the fork, drop the knife, do not get in it because it needs to fully set up. I usually recommend maybe about an hour, and I know that's painful. Maybe you can do a little less, but if you cut it right out of the oven, your pie is not going to, come out in a full slice. It's going to be mush, and no one wants that. So I'm going to look here in the chat. I think I've seen all of these. Yes, I have. So I'm going to cut a slice of this pie to show y'all what it looks like, and I'm going to show you a tip from a Georgian of what to do with a pie. This is a Paula Deen tip that she always talked about on her show, and that is using scissors to cut the first piece. And as I said, these are size 16.5 ring fingers, y'all. I am not gentle. So it probably still won't be pretty, I'm not gonna lie. But what you wanna do to get that first slice out is you wanna take your kitchen shears and cut. This is really a great hack. Cut your first piece like that. And there I have already broke the crust, I ain't even gonna lie. So you're going to cut it out like that, and if you were more gentle than I, it would come out all pretty like, but what I'm going to do is I am going to slice this right out, and please excuse my broken crust. I'm going to get this out, and then I'm actually going to cut a better looking one. The first one's always awful. So, and there's one of my countryisms, y'all. All pretty like. I am from Appalachia, a very rural part of Kentucky, and we talk real country. As I say, I am trilingual. I speak Spanish, English, and I speak mountain. So this is what the pie looks like. It is, I will actually lift it up. Again, I had the crust kind of break on me, but it is just sinful. It sits up really nice and firm, and it's just like kind of having a pimento cheese and tomato sandwich. That's so much better. Here's one that's not in a bowl, but it kind of cuts out like a quiche is how I would say the texture. But it's a heck of a lot better than a quiche, y'all. I mean, there ain't no quiche that can touch this. So, those were 2 slices. I usually, get 6 to 8 out of a pie, Could be fourths if you are maybe like Lori and I, we could do halves. If we were feeling really naughty, just go on down and plot it on your plate. But that's tomato pie. And so if you have any clarification questions, would love to answer. If you want to spill the tea, I can make it real sweet, and I can tell you all the juicy gossip of Southern cooks. We can talk about blogging, making money online. We can talk about influencer marketing. You can ask me my biggest secrets. We can talk about it all. I'm a chatty Cathy, so I would love to hear from y'all. And when you make this pie, whether you're making it in person with me right now, or you make it later, I would love for you to post it on social media or email it to me. I'm JCP, as in JC Phelps, my monogram, as we would say here on the South. If it moves, monogram it. And I move, so I want a monogram on everything. So jcpeats with an s.com. All my social handles are at jcpeats. And it's also jcpeats@gmail.com. So send me your photos, tag me in your photos, make those tomato pies, and make me proud. But otherwise, I'm going to hush. If you all could believe it, I've talked, over 40 minutes, and I just had a brief cameo from my guests, and I could sit here and talk 3 or 4 more hours to you. So,
may I ask you a question?
You may.
Okay. Why do you actually use kosher salt, not regular salt?
Okay, I think this is personal preference. I use one of two salts always, kosher or a really coarse flaky salt. I personally, it's twofold. I like the bigger grains, also like the flavor more. Iodized salt, I guess I'll just use a southern word here. It has a wang. I just don't care for it. I mean, I would rather go out in my yard and munch in my grass than have Morton salt. I just don't care for it. Kosher salt is just, to me, it's just it's the end all be all. Great flavor, great texture. It also, to me, it's easier to gauge, kind of like mayonnaise. If you use too much salt, you're done for. Kosher salt, where it's bigger, it's so much easier to see how much you're actually dropping. And with iodized salt, or even a smaller salt, you know, you can really have an oopsie. And no one wants to do that. So that's my short answer. I guess it's really quadripartite, but I love kosher. And someone said in the chat, what about pink salt? So Himalayan salt is great. You could certainly use that here. I think it's all a preference of flavor. Some people like kosher salt, some people like pink Himalayan salt. All of those are recommended. Any salt that you could list in the chat for you right now, I would put in a more or less equal hierarchy until we got to iodized salt. And I put that down at the bottom. So if you have a preference, by all means use it, because you're going to enjoy the pie more. And that's what's important. I want you all to enjoy it. You're very welcome. Someone said, how would you store the pie? The pie is fabulous in the refrigerator. If you're a freak like me, you'll just eat it cold. It reheats in the microwave just fine. I typically would recommend reheating it in the oven, of course. That would be best. And I had a reader from Chicago send me an Instagram direct message saying that she froze her tomato pies and they ended up great when she, reheated it and put it in the oven from the freezer. I personally would not have guessed that. But my main reason for saying that is, I can't believe she had any left. I guess it's because the recipe makes two and she didn't share, or she didn't eat them all herself. So I have learned from the readers that you can also freeze. It will keep for, I would say, 2 to 3 days pretty well in the refrigerator. That would be probably max for me. While you did take that moisture out of the tomatoes, you don't want the pie to get, kind of soupy, and tomatoes will do that eventually. But I think you all will learn by after you make it that you probably won't have too much left. But yeah, store it in the refrigerator. And this one that I've actually cut, I made this before I went on a walk today. It's been out on my counter for probably, 3 hours. And I would eat it just as it is. It's fine. It's a great dish to make if you have a brunch when we can be safe and in person, minus those in your close circle. If you have a brunch, if you have a get together, a potluck, whatever it might be, celebrating Kentucky Derby at home, as I will be doing this year, unfortunately. It can sit out for several hours across the luncheon or dinner party and serve perfectly, which is great. So it's a very flexible dish in that extent. And yeah, I think you all will really enjoy it. What other questions y'all have? I see Mira. Hi, Mira. It's so nice. We have chatted on the phone. Tonight was the first time I got to see Mira in person. And that's like the bane of my Zoom existence. You only get to hear voices, but, excuse me, not the bane, the benefit of Zoom is that finally you get to see the person, the antithesis of what I just said. So it's very nice to see you, Mira. I'm glad you're on my screen.
Yeah, it's
you're
great to see you too. And I'm so excited that we were able to do this.
Me too.
Before we wrap up, if we could ask everyone to go off video, we love taking Zoom selfies. So if everyone can go off camera, that would be
on camera. Yay! All right.
So Julia, are you gonna take it?
I'll take it. Okay, we're gonna take it 2 times. Karan, can you tilt your camera just a little bit? I don't want to cut off your face. Thank you, my dear. All right, 3, 2, 1. And I'm gonna take one more. Hold on, just in case our eyes got closed. 3, 2, 1. All right. Wait, JC, you are so cute. Bring that tomato pie back. I want one of just you, a cameo.
Oh, thanks. You're gonna make my head big and make me blush.
3, 2, 1. Love it. Oh my God, so great. Honestly, y'all, I hate selfies in real life, but there's something about the Zoom selfie that's just so much better. The Zelfie, that's what we've called it as we speak. JC, do you want to just mention the cause that you were hoping people would consider contributing to, since everyone was at the beginning?
Sure. And actually, if you want to come back over, that would be fine. Sure. I have in my live audience over here in my kitchen that you can't see, I have my really dear friend Lori, who works for Gilda's Club, Kentucky Anna. This is a cancer support group, and this is our local chapter that serves Louisville and Southern Indiana.
And all of Kentucky.
Oh, all of Kentucky, yes. Okay, excuse me. That's why Lori's here. It's a great program that she works for, and she's also a cancer survivor and received support services there. So I'm gonna let her talk a little bit again about what y'all do, and if you choose to donate, and I so hope y'all will, what it will be going towards.
Hi, y'all. Just in case you missed our little intro in the beginning, thank you all so much for coming and cooking with my best friend and for considering supporting Gilda's Club Kentuckiana. There are actually Gilda's Club and cancer support community locations all over the country. So this is an organization that was started by Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka, when his wife, Gilda Radner, Queen of SNL, passed away from her second round of ovarian cancer. And he knew that when she was her best during her treatment journey was when she had community. And so he decided to start these communities in her honor, the first one being in New York City. And now they are all over the United States and will hopefully grow into other parts of the world. I've heard rumors of things starting in Canada, so that's really exciting. We provide psychosocial support. That basically means everything with the medicine for people who are living with cancer, survivors, their family, friends, caregivers. And we also provide bereavement support for people who have had cancer loss. So we would love for you guys to spread the word about Gilda's Club in general. Like I said, they're all over the country. Right now, because of COVID, we are completely virtual. So if you go to our website, it's just gck.org. You'll find a calendar with over 100 virtual programs a month. And those include support groups, those include networking times, those include educational programs, social programs, health and wellness. We're doing everything from Zumba to Qigong live on Zoom for our people all over the state. And because we are Gilda's Club Kentuckiana, we embrace our entire state and all of Southern Indiana. But if you have a cancer connection, you're looking for that kind of support, just like I needed, there is a Gilda's Club or cancer support community somewhere near you. So hop online, check it out, and get the support you need, because no one should face cancer alone. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much. We really enjoyed this. This was amazing, and we hope you guys look more into Gilda's Club and consider donating. And make sure you're up to date with Tradition Kitchens. We have a couple classes coming up, including Julia, the pork.
Tamarind soup is next week. It's a special dumpling with avocado, and it's a Filipino dish that I'm going to totally mispronounce, but it's very exotic and exciting, with our friend Nikki next week on Monday the 24th.
So yeah, to keep up to date with us, make sure you're following our social media, Tradition Kitchens, and keep up with JC at JCP Eats. And we really enjoyed this, so thank you all for being here with us tonight.
I want to end the night with one funny, if that's okay. You can't be in the country, you can't be in Kentucky without a big hee-haw. And you've seen Lori here, you've also seen Tanya. she just showed me this behind the scenes photo, y'all. So this is behind the scenes coverage you would never see on the blog in all 13 years. You wouldn't see her live because you just see from overall bib up. But this is how you know, that you were in my Kentucky kitchen tonight. You can see Tanya's foot in the forefront of the photo, mine and Lori in the back. We all three are barefoot. Barefoot in Kentucky, y'all. This is how we cook. So I am so glad that you all could be here in my Kentucky kitchen. This is an authentic cultural experience. And that was so funny. Thank you for taking that.
That's amazing. I love it. We feel right at home. Thank you.
So your tomato pie will be best if you ditch the shoes, y'all. Don't wear them. Here we go. Thank you all for having me. I had so much fun, and I hope to hear from some of you all that were in the class online.
Thank you, JC. We appreciate it.
You too. Thanks for having me, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks, Renee. Take care.
Bye-bye.